Hey there, this is Mr. Icarus, and welcome to yet another edition of Doom Mod Madness. This time round, we're checking out Project Uber. This is a good mod if you're a fan of guns akimbo, because as you can see, we're getting our John Woo on right now with this first weapon combination here, which is dual pistols, but this is pretty much the exception to the rule in Project Uber, because when it comes to successive weapon combinations, you'll find that you'll generally have something different in your left and right hand. In this particular case, the primary fire fires both pistols, but when it comes to the secondary fire, it does something a little bit interesting. And we're just going to test it out on a mancubus around here, but as you can see, you can fling energy blasts at enemies, and they're actually quite powerful. They can do a decent amount of damage against heavier, tankier enemies, but the downside to that attack is that it also drains your health. So yeah, I'd say it's very much a weapon of last resort, something that you only really pull out when you absolutely positively have to bring something down. And it's something that you certainly don't want to have to rely on later on down the line in this mod's campaign. It's got 6 maps in total, and the difficulty curve, oh boy, does it shoot up round about the end of the second level going into the third, and it is kind of unforgiving. But in the meantime, we've at least got our hands on some shiny shotguns. We've got our pump action in the left, the super shotgun in the right, and you might not want to think too hard about the whole reloading arrangement here. It's the kind of thing that would require at least a minimum of 3 arms, maybe 4, but then again, we are playing a version of Doom Guy called Captain Akimbo here, so multiple limbs probably isn't that too far off the mark. But in either case, this kind of arrangement means you can take down enemies a hell of a lot quicker than you normally would. You can fire off simultaneous blasts from both weapons, but you don't want to be going too crazy because they both draw from the same ammunition pool. So really you want to be saving those simultaneous blasts for the big tankier enemies and using the individual maybe pump action blasts for the small fry. You might also be wondering what the deal is with the tokens that I've been picking up during the level so far, and these are actually taken from Rise of the Triad, which is another favourite of mine from back in the day, but in this case they contribute directly to my score, which you can see in the top right hand corner. You get enough points, you can earn yourself an extra bomb. You can see that we've got 3 of them there just underneath the score, and the bomb is basically your oh shit button, the kind of thing you press to utterly decimate whatever's on screen at the time, but considering they're in relatively short supply, you really want to save them for those really dire situations where things are completely hopeless and the odds are completely stacked against you. Thankfully, this isn't one of those situations, so we'll be saving our bomb for a little later on when it really does get hairy. In the meantime, however, we've at least got access to the chain gun and rocket launcher combo here. Quite possibly one of the more satisfying combinations in Project Uber. It really does make you feel like you're a walking tank, basically. It's such an ingeniously simple concept. You're just slamming 2 vanilla weapons together and all of a sudden you feel a hell of a lot more powerful as a result. I think it comes down to choice at the heart of it. You don't have to fumble and switch between weapons. You've at least got 2 viable options at any given time in order to deal with whatever's in front of you. Speaking of the things that'll be in front of you, we've got a fair wide variety of monsters here in Project Uber. We've got marines, we've got zombies, we've got these weird variations of Pinky that drop chain guns when you shoot them for some reason. These pain elementals have mancubus fire launchers for hands, and oh my god, chibi cacodemons. Oh, I feel so bad killing them. They're so cute. Even the little noises they make when they fall down after being shot are just adorable. Can I just have one as a pet? Can we leave it at that? Can I have a mod where I can just have a pet chibi cacodemon and just feed it? You know, like Pokemon breeding, but with demon monsters? That would be cool. Someone get on that. But in any case, I think it's safe to say that Project Uber is certainly not a mod lacking in variety, especially when it comes to monsters. And even though this mod only has 6 maps to its name, those maps are positively gargantuan. I mean, I've been playing through this opening map here for nigh on a solid 5 minutes now, and I've still got a little bit of ways to go. In fact, one of the more interesting things about the maps here in Project Uber is that the vast majority of them weren't actually created specifically for this mod. A lot of them have been repurposed, were originally left unfinished. In fact, this particular map, I'm pretty sure I remember playing through at some point in the past, just without all the extra Rise of the Triad tokens and dual-wielding guns. I guess it's just nice to see a map being put to good use rather than being left to languish unfinished. Another interesting thing that Project Uber adds to the mix is these particular encounters. These only last for a short length of time, and if you manage to kill all of the demons before they fade away and disappear, you actually gain a little bit of an extra token bonus. And as we already know, there's good incentive to do this, because once you reach a certain level of tokens collected, you'll gain yourself an extra bomb, and that is something that becomes extremely vital in the later stages of this mod. So in terms of where this mod tips itself over the edge and just becomes plain old bullshit ridiculous hard, I'd say that this particular part of map 3 is a really great example. I mean, I've got dual-wielded BFG 9000s here, and even that isn't going to be enough to get me through this in one piece. And this is on intermediate difficulty, by the way. This means enemies are more numerous, they're tougher to take down, and you're practically obligated at this point to use a bomb. This is a bomb. Not quite what you were expecting, was it? It doesn't drop something explosive on the arena, no, it turns you into the god of shotguns, 6 of them there to be precise, which also seem to fire exploding, bouncing shotguns in turn, which is just utterly, wonderfully ridiculous and utterly necessary. I mean, when you put it in context with the rest of the map, you'll have had to fight past 2 different Cyber Demon variants, nearly every other goddamn monster under the sun, too many Archviles. I mean, 1 is enough on any given map, but to be frank, it'll be a minor miracle if you even get to this point with any of your bombs left intact. I mean, can you imagine trying to do this without at least 1 bomb? I don't think you'll have enough ammo. I don't think you'll have enough patience. I certainly didn't. It's why I abused the ever-loving crap out of the Resurrect command. And that was just to get to this part of the map. This was just out of sheer impatience and just from not having any fun anymore with how difficult the map was being with me. And you know what the real kicker out of all of this is? This is only halfway through the goddamn mod. Carries on like this for 3 more friggin' maps. I get the distinct feeling that this is a mod that consciously takes the piss, that really does want to make the player flip out and just smash shit in some kind of rage-induced fury. And that's fine, but I think it's a real shame, because in reality, I think this is a really goddamn cool mod. It's just buried under waves upon waves of frustration, of trial and error and back and forth, because if you're playing this in any kind of traditional manner, then you're probably not quick saving. But trust me, you're gonna need to quick save. This is a mod that desperately needs some kind of checkpoint system, because the levels are huge, the encounters are varied, and chances are you're gonna be dying a hell of a lot before you even get within a whiff of the end of some of these later levels. That's even if you get that far, because, to be honest, after map 3, you feel like it should have already reached some kind of crescendo, and anything after that just starts to feel kind of exhausting. You just start to develop this kind of fatigue. And in all honesty, I probably would enjoy this mod a hell of a lot more if I maybe took my time, if I, walked away after the end of a level and decompressed, played something else before returning to it and having another crack, but that's not the way I do things here. I usually have to tackle these things in one big, unbroken block to see as much as I can possibly see of a mod before I, sit down and make a video like this. I guess what I'm really trying to say here is that my particular frustration with Project Uber, with its difficulty, with its big-ass maps, with its trial-and-error nature, is probably going to be a lot more intense than the frustration of the average Joe, than someone who can sit down and take their time with a mod like this. I still feel like the last level's complete and utter bullshit, though. I think my frustration is entirely vindicated in this particular scenario, because this is weapons-grade bullshit. In all caps, written across the sky by an F-16 fighter jet. It is that completely, utterly retarded in terms of how hard it is. And you know what, silly? This section right here is probably one of the more reasonable sections of the map, provided you got a few bombs to smooth your passage between hordes of fireball-chucking douchebags. And even then, you're cheesing it. It doesn't feel like skill, it just feels like luck. You'll do run after run after run, hoping that some stray projectile from some variant of a Hell Knight doesn't take you out, and even when you get through all that, you end up in the shit all over again. You end up here, in Revenant City, population all of the frigging skeletons. Seriously though, this mod has a little bit of a hard-on for the Revenant. There's so many varieties here. You've got the regular vanilla Revenants, you've got little golden Revenant here that spills tokens when you shoot it, you've got Revenants that have railguns attached to their shoulders, you've got Revenants that don't have any rocket launchers at all, they just really want to punch you in the face really goddamn bad. Then you've got the headless Revenants with hooks for hands, I guess the pirate Revenants that also shoot you with rockets, and then you've got these weird Revenants that slow you down when you get hit by their projectiles. It's a lot of Revenant to deal with, and by now you'll probably have spotted that there's a bunch of Archviles floating around here already, and as you know, that already tips my bullshit meter off the scale into the stratosphere, to the place where you don't return, where you just throw your arms up, you start screaming all of the obscenities you know, and the neighbors get really, really fucking concerned. Basically, it takes the piss. It takes the piss to a catastrophic degree. I mean, after having to fight through the previous section of this map and the opening section of the map, this right here is like the ultimate slap in the face. And again, this is something I'm only dealing with here on novice difficulty. On intermediate, oh boy, you better have a blood transfusion ready, because that's going to be spurting out of the side of your head when you burst that blood vessel. Honestly, it's that bad that I'll be happy to never see a Revenant again for a good long while, but considering I do Doom mods on a fairly regular basis, that's looking kinda unlikely. And so, with great fanfare, after all of the Revenants, after all of the variants, after all of the excessively long levels, and the frustration, and the reloading, and the resurrection, and the god damn it, why haven't I got enough beer in my fridge, you finally get to this. The ultimate aim of Project Uber, the ultimate objective, taking down the evil Uber computer, which might be a little familiar if you're a fan of the Tron films. Very much so the first Tron film, where red just signified things being a little bit evil, and it had a great big supercomputer that you had to also kill. That one didn't involve as many demons, that involved something involving a magic frisbee, but yeah. Pretty cool, all things considered. It's a much different pace from a lot of the rest of the mod, even with the large amount of projectiles coming out of the heart on the plinth up there. It's a lot more easily readable. It's nowhere near as chaotic as the stuff that comes before it. And in my opinion, it's a lot more better off as a result. You've got time to consider your moves, to time your shots between the opening of the blast shield, to thread a path through the projectile fire. It feels like you're actually exercising some skill and not relying purely on luck and running around like a headless chicken. I mean, when you put it all side by side though, it feels almost anticlimactic. As far as anticlimaxes go, however, it's a pretty damn good looking one. I mean, this space alone is just really goddamn nice. I really love that column at the back that goes up and down. Another thing I believe that was heavily inspired by Tron. It's just a shame that by the time I actually reached this point first time round, I was too exhausted to really appreciate it. It was just such an ordeal getting through the rest of the mod to this particular point, to this series of boss battles. Ultimately, Project Uber is a test of your resolve. It's got a few neat gameplay mechanics in there. I love the dual wielding, I love the token collection, I love the goofiness of the bomb, but good grief, is it really going to put you through your paces if you want to see the end of this in any kind of legitimate fashion, be it on novice mode or, God forbid, anything higher. I think the most important thing for me to say here, though, is that I don't hate Project Uber. I actually kind of like it. It just pisses me off to an unreasonable degree at certain points, and I think, as I've mentioned before, that's down to having to play this through in one solid, unrelenting block. I think I'd enjoy it a hell of a lot more if I just had the opportunity to take it at a bit of a slower pace over a longer and less intense period of time. But in any case, if you're feeling a little masochistic, the link for Project Uber is of course in the description below. Hopefully you've enjoyed this video. Feel free to let me know what you thought in the comments below, and feel free to suggest any mods you'd like to see me cover in future episodes of Doom Mod Madness. This has been Mr. Icarus. Thank you very much for watching. Icarus out.